The Innovators Network.
Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome to this week's Killer Innovation Show. Glad you could join us this week. One of the conversations I get into a lot with people around innovation is, what is innovation? How do you define it? My simple definition is ideas made real. But for some reason, most people think of innovation as some new shiny object, some piece of electronics, some new phone or gaming device, or maybe a new kind of customer-facing service. What they overlook, though, is innovation can be applied to anything. Anything that you do within your organization can be innovated. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to focus in on one area that I think is highly overlooked in most organizations, and that is process innovation. Think of all the processes that you have within your organization, such as the payroll process or the process of what you have to go through to submit an expense report to get reimbursed for your, traveling on behalf of the organization, your purchasing process, your manufacturing process, your supply chain process, your onboarding new employees process. Processes are rampant throughout every organization. And it's amazing how when a process gets set down, particularly if it's written up in a manual, people do not want to change it. Processes are ripe for innovation, and they can have huge impact. So today, we are going to focus on process innovation. It is not the mundane, boring. These are things that you can innovate in your organization that will have significant and meaningful impact. And you can use it as a proof point to get your leadership team to support what it is you want to do in building out the innovation capabilities of you, your team, your organization, and your ability to influence that success. So, without further ado, we're going to jump into the show, but I got that question to ask, or that favor to ask, which is follow, like, and share. Follow us on social media, like this episode, and share it with others. And with that, let's jump in to this week's episode.
This episode is sponsored by Zoom. With Zoom, you can streamline your communication, collaboration, and creativity all in one place. Zoom is the market-leading platform that provides video meetings, voice, webinars, and chat across desktops, phones, tablets, and conference room systems. To learn more about Zoom and sign up for your free account, visit killerinnovations.com/Zoom.
Episode. The world is constantly changing, and with it, the definition of what it means to be innovative. It is difficult to stand out from the pack in a society that is just constantly inundated with new technologies and new ideas and new ways of doing things. Most people think innovation as a breakthrough product or some kind of radical service idea, or maybe even a business model innovation. Most innovators overlook what some think of as mundane innovations, such as incremental innovations and business process management. But it is this type of innovation that can have a much greater impact in the long term and on society. So what is process innovation? Process innovation is the implementation of a new or significantly improved process in order to achieve a tangible set of outcomes. A process is a set of coordinated activities that use resources to transform inputs into outputs. These processes are often referred to as business processes. There are many different types of process innovations, but all share the same goal: to make a process more efficient, more effective, or both. When I think of business process, I think of them in two different types: an operational process and a managerial process. What do I mean by operational process? These are the most common type of process, is this process innovation from an operational perspective. It seeks to improve the efficiency of a process by streamlining activities and eliminating waste in the production and the deliverable. There are two subsets. One is structural, improves the efficiency of a process by redesigning its structure. This may include changing the order in which activities are carried out, or eliminating certain activities altogether. The second subpart here is functional. Improves the efficiency of a process by improving how its activities are carried out. This may involve developing new methods or technologies to effectively carry out. So again, an operational process, it is all about improving the efficiency of a process by streamlining its activities. And there are two types. They're structural, changing the order of the process, or functional, changing how a function within the process changes. Now, let's talk about the second type, managerial process. The managerial process seeks to improve the effectiveness of a process by improving coordination in decision making. And again, there's two subtypes. There's strategic and there's tactical. Strategic improves the effectiveness of a process by redesigning its structure. This may include changing the order. It may include eliminating. It may include the overall processes of how do you think about strategically about assembling the right steps in the process. And tactical, it's about improving coordination and decision making. How do you then work better together? How do you think about the process of improving that overall effectiveness of coordination? Particularly, this plays out in very complex processes where multiple steps have to be closely synchronized and closely coordinated. Now, when it comes to process innovation, why is it just so hard to improve it? In order to be successful, businesses must constantly improve their processes. Most businesses, or I shouldn't say most, but some businesses, once they think they've designed the process, they lock in on it. They never want to change it. They want to do it in the same way. So changing it could be very difficult. But that also is why innovation can play such a significant improvement. Be willing to look at it and change the process, and using the innovation tools we have in our toolbox, we can have a radical and significant impact. But let's talk about the barriers you're going to run into. There are many factors that make it hard for a business to innovate its processes. And the number one issue is it involves change. Most people are just resistant to change, especially if they feel like they're doing just fine with the way things are. In order to successfully implement a business process innovation, you need to overcome this resistance. You need to get people on board with a new way of doing things. You also need to make sure that the change is implemented gradually. Don't try to be too radical. Do it gradually so that people have time to adjust to the new way of doing things. It's important also to get feedback from people throughout the process so that you can make sure that the changes are actually making things better and not just causing more confusion. Another barrier is it's hard to understand the process. You also need to clearly understand the current process and what needs to be changed. And this can be difficult to do if you are not intimately familiar with the process. And even if you are, it's hard to identify inefficiencies and bottlenecks that can be improved. One way to better understand the process you want to innovate is to break it down to its individual components. This can help you see where and how the process can be improved. You can also diagram the process to see how the different activities are interconnected, linked, dependent on each other. You can also try to carry out the process in a different order to see if it makes it efficient. You can do experiments. And if you're still having trouble understanding the process, you can always ask someone who's more familiar with it to help you out. Now, I have a personal experience in this. Back many years ago, back in, 1980, 1981, I was doing a summer internship at a company called Anchor Industries in Evansville, Indiana. And at that time, I was still studying architecture. I had not moved over to change my degree focus to computer software. So as an architect, I was about designing and documenting how you build things. Well, Anchor Industries had been around since pre-Civil War days and did not have very good design documents, blueprints, designs, how-tos to manufacture many of the products. Many of the employees that work at Anchor are second, third, and even fourth generation employees. And they just simply pass down the knowledge of how to do a Barnum and Bailey circus tent and how to do this particular thing for this client. It was almost oral storytelling was the whole history. My job was to come in and document. I had no familiarity with the process. I wasn't about improving the process. I was just trying to understand the process. And I had no background in making canvas products. And Anchor Industries is one of the largest manufacturer of canvas products. They make everything from large circus tents to all of the canvas products you see at Walt Disney World to the tarps you see on the back of semi-tractor trailers going down the road to pool covers and everything in between. So I had to get in and understand the process. This point here about you could always talk to somebody who's more familiar to help you out was key for me to understand the process. You have to be willing to ask. And in this case, we're talking about expertise and experiences going back, to the 1850s, 1860s. And how do you go back and reverse engineer all of that? You can't. You have to ask somebody. Ask the experts. They will help you understand the process. And you can't innovate, change, or improve the process without understanding the process. Number 3, another reason why it's so hard to change processes, it is hard to secure execution support. You need to plan for how you're going to implement the new process. The change management of innovating a process is almost as important as innovating the process itself. This includes having the right resources in place and making sure that everybody involved knows what they need to do. Without a well thought out plan, it will be difficult to successfully implement any form of improvement, any attempt to innovate the business processes. And once you have a plan and the necessary buy-in, then you can begin implementing the change. Start by gradually rolling it out to avoid too much disruption. You don't want to put the entire organization into a pause mode, freaking out while you're trying to implement the change. And again, be sure to get feedback. Be open to criticism. Be open to issues and be willing to change. But also at the same time, don't give in. People will be resistant to this change. You have to persevere. So, what are some examples of business processes that have been implemented quite successfully and that totally revolutionized how businesses operated, how they actually did things? The first one I want to talk about is Toyota's just-in-time manufacturing system. This system dates back to the early 1970s. At that time, Toyota was struggling with high levels of inventory and extreme waste of materials in their supply chain. To address these issues, the company began exploring new manufacturing methods, including just-in-time. Just-in-time involves developing direct relationships with part suppliers and then having just enough parts on hand to meet the production needs with no excess inventory. This helps reduce waste and cost while still ensuring that the production process can meet the customer demand. Taiichi Oni, an engineer at the company, initially developed the Toyota just-in-time system. Oni-san drew inspiration from supermarket shelves, which are stocked with just enough items to meet customer demand with no excess, no waste. And he adapted this concept to Toyota's manufacturing business process, and the just-in-time system was born to create simplified vehicle assembly. Now, since its inception, Toyota's just-in-time system has been constantly refined and constantly innovated. Today, it is widely regarded as one of the most effective manufacturing processes in the world. Just-in-time has helped Toyota create product innovation that makes it one of the most successful automakers in history and has influenced manufacturing processes around the world. The second example, Ford assembly line. I am a big Ford fan. I will tell you that right out of the gate. My uncle owned Lincoln and Ford dealerships, and I think in my entire life, I've ever owned one vehicle that was not a Ford. Now, Ford's assembly line is another example of innovating the business process. The Ford assembly line was created by Henry Ford and introduced in 1913. It is one of the most important inventions in modern history because it increased production efficiency and allowed for assembly line mass production. The system also helped to reduce the cost of manufacturing cars, making them far more affordable for the average consumer. In order to meet the demand for his Model T Fords, Henry Ford needed to mass produce them quickly and efficiently. He came up with an innovative idea of moving the assembly line, where each worker would be responsible for one specific task. The worker would then move down the line as the car progressed through various stages of vehicle assembly. The system increased efficiency and allowed for mass production. It also helped reduce the cost. And that reduction in cost and what Henry Ford was willing to pay as an average salary and the 40-hour work week, which came from Henry Ford, transformed society. It transformed the middle class. The establishment of not only a salary that was a livable wage, but the cost of goods and the radical reduction of that cost set the target and the bar for all kinds of goods that would be using these kinds of assembly lines to deliver such great efficiency. The third example is the lean startup process. The lean startup process was developed by Steve Blank and Eric Ries. And it's a business process for rapidly prototyping and testing new business ideas. Now, I'm a big Eric Ries fan. I think, the work that was done in the original Lean Startup has been transformative. I've had Eric speak at events that I've hosted. And if you have not read the book, read the book. Now, the Lean Startup is focused on helping. It started off with just being startups, but it actually has a much broader context. But it's about reducing waste and cost while still ensuring that they're able to test and validate the innovation ideas that you're trying to develop. Lean Startup has become one of the most popular methods for launching new business models. If you're innovating a business model, look at using Lean Startups in the Lean Startup Canvas approach to testing and validating the idea. It's been used by startups all over the world, including some of the most successful companies in history. Airbnb used it, Uber used it to create and validate what they were doing early before they even had their product. So what are the benefits of process innovation? Well, one is again, reducing waste and cost. It's by developing these new methods or technologies to be more effective, more efficient, more organized, better synchronized, driving down costs and waste. 2, improving efficiency. It allows you to be more effective at reducing the time required. Henry Ford reduced the time to build a car. The assembly lines used at companies like Foxconn in Taiwan and China to produce your iPhone. It's about that improved efficiency. 3, increased production capacity. If you redesign the structure of the process and you improve coordination and decision making, you can improve the flow of work, reduce the bottlenecks, which will make you more efficient, and therefore factories, manufacturing supply chains can handle a higher volume of work. It also gives you the benefit of a more affordable products or services. Process innovation can help create business model innovations, produce products or services at a lower cost. They can make them more affordable for consumers. This increased efficiency can lead to these lower costs, which makes the availability of product and service innovations more broadly available to the population. Number 5 is also it can improve customer satisfaction. By constantly improving the processes, businesses can ensure their products or services meet the ever-changing needs. If your business processes are efficient and adaptive, then you can respond to the changing desires, wants, needs of your customers. Now, I'm going to give you another example. We talk about manufacturing and infrastructure processes and all the different elements of the typical business process. But one business process that I'm amazed that never gets innovated once it gets established, and it should be, and that is the innovation process. If you've been listening to this show for any length of time, you know that I am not big on getting locked in on an innovation process. But for some reason, we don't think about it as a business process. We think about it as something special. It's innovation. But constantly be looking at the innovation process. Think of it as just like any other business process. Can you make it more efficient? Can you organize it? Can you do better coordination, better collaboration? Right? We should always look for ways to improve the process. And again, that includes the innovation process. This process should constantly be refined and improved in order to ensure that businesses can bring product innovations and service innovations to the market in a timely and efficient way. Now, there are a number of ways that businesses can innovate their innovation process in order to make it more effective. One way is to increase the amount of collaboration. Collaboration is one of those areas that tends to be a huge bottleneck when it comes to the innovation process. Focus on that. That's a starting point. Think about that, drive that. If you do that, this will ensure that all the stakeholders are involved in the process and that ideas can be more frequently exchanged. Another way to improve the innovation process is to create a culture of experimentation, where failure is an opportunity to learn and improve. Put that process in, put that step in the innovation process where you run 2, 5, 10, 20 experiments before you can go to the next step. This will encourage employees to take risks, experiment with new ideas without the fear of repercussions. The other is look at your data. The whole issue of efficiency of assembly lines and of manufacturing, if decision making, etc., is by the data, having the analytics. Apply that same thinking to your innovation process. Treat it like any other business process. Think about what data should you collect, what analytics should you do in order to track the progress, find other areas of improvement. Part of just in time at Toyota is the constant flow of data and analytics to point out bottlenecks, excesses, efficiencies, etc. Apply that to your innovation process. And by constantly monitoring and refining the process, businesses can ensure they're always at the forefront of market trends and able to create those products and services. And again, it's about giving you that competitive edge. Now, how do you get started in innovating business processes? Well, there's a lot of consulting firms that focus on business processes or business process reengineering. Another one to think about is applying your innovation processes at processes. Look at how do you innovate your assembly? How do you innovate your customer care processes? How do you innovate your supply chain? How do you innovate? Treat it like any other innovation activity within your organization. And if you need help in that, work with an innovation agency. Go find an innovation agency that has the expertise and experiences in looking at business processes. There are a number of them out there. Check them out. Look at what they do. Have a conversation with them and see if maybe innovating your business processes could be that secret weapon that just opens up an opportunity that you had just never, ever considered. So, what process within your organization are you going to go after first? Pick one. Go ahead, pick one. Process innovation is one of those areas where you can show the value of innovation and rationalize the investment and the expanded investment of innovation within your organization. And it doesn't matter. You can have a 10-person startup or a 240,000 multinational like I had at HP. Processes are those things that every organization has, and they're all ripe for innovation. Years ago, I had an executive assistant who went through a course that I teach, the Innovation Bootcamp course. It's a 5-day course. It's really intense. I only teach it twice a year. I have to build up for it. I got to go to the gym and work out. But after the course, she came to me and she goes, "Okay, what do I do? I want to do something. I don't build laptops. I'm not an engineer, but I want to take what I learned in the boot camp and do something." So I tasked her to take a look at the processes, all the things she does, daily, weekly, monthly, and where would there be a way to improve the efficiency. And you know what? She went after the expense report process. Expense reports, right? She spent a lot of time doing expense reports. Mine, my staffs on my teams, all of those, right? And so she went after it. Now, typically, the expense report to fill out the spreadsheet, fill out the form, make sure you had your receipts, blah, 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 all these things would take about 40 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. She clocked people. She would sit there and watch them, see how long it took them to do it. She was a little bit more efficient. She could do it in about 30, 35 minutes, but it still took a fair amount of time tracking down the paper, receipts, blah, 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 blah. And so she went after this, worked with the finance department, worked with legal department, and she got the expense reporting process at HP down, call it 40 minutes, down to 12 minutes. 12 minutes. So we're talking 22 minutes savings. 22 minutes of savings. Think about 22 minutes of savings times how many employees, 240,000, times how many employees travel and how often do they travel, right? So you're talking 22 minutes times a couple million trips, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 million trips a year. Think about the labor cost, that savings done from just taking 22 minutes out of how long it took to do an expense report. What process in your organization could you innovate? It's those types of activities that you can get in there, show your power of innovation, and have a radical impact on your organization that will elevate the importance and the support for innovation with your leadership. As we wrap up this week's show, again, thank you for taking the time to join us. Looking forward to your feedback. Feel free to drop me a note. You can always use the form over at killerinnovations.com, or you can just drop me an email, phil@killerinnovations.com. With everything going on, I've got some travel coming up here in the summer. We're trying to stay ahead, keep the show queue active, but I'm just giving you a heads up. There might be a couple of shows here in July and August that may be skipped, or I may have guest host. I may ask Kim McNicholas to sit in the chair and do the show for the week, just because I'm trying to get away, like all of us should, and rejuvenate. So hopefully you're planning some time this summer to get away and just kind of forget and just have that think time. That's when your subconscious kicks in. That's when you're going to come up with that great killer idea. And I'd love to hear about that. If you've got something that you're excited about, let me know. Love to hear about it. And with that, I'm going to thank you for taking time out of this week's show, and we'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.
This show is distributed by the Innovators Network. For more information and other great shows and content, visit theinnovators.network.